When I'm looking to make high conviction trades, especially in companies like Tesla, I always find it more prevalent to find people that are forefronting the industry, that know where the industry is headed before I place any of those bets. And in the automotive industry, there is nobody more on the forefront than a gentleman by the name of Munro, who tears apart all of the EVs and made a really bold prediction stating that if in the US they do not get 50% of the vehicles sold to EVs, that they are going to lose to basically the Chinese, the European markets. And recently he just came out and gave us an incredible timeline on how far Tesla is ahead on a bunch of their different systems. So I want to react to that today, offer some insights, because this is bar none the best video I've ever seen for Tesla bulls. So strap in, let's get this started and see what's going on here, folks.
Okay, all right.
How many years Tesla is ahead in motors
At
of
least,
the competition?
Three or four.
3. In batteries?
Batteries, 6 years, maybe 7.
If a full self-driving chip or autopilot chip?
No, their chips and their software are probably 10 years ahead. The full self-driving, I think that Elon Musk is going to probably surprise the planet, and before year end, he'll say, "I've got it." I don't know how, but like measuring all the emperors or all the noses or whatever and saying there's a general average. I think that Tesla likes to make surprises, and it wouldn't surprise me if they came out with full self-driving before year end. Everybody else is saying 4 to 6 years. So
this is really awesome insight. I can't get over that there's a lot of big YouTubers that have been running public polls, and they found out that 40% of people don't believe self-driving is going to happen for the next decade. And even Google's Waymo has done over 10,000 self-driven trips already. So when you look at the innovations and the new upgrades that are coming to self-driving, guys, I think people are really underestimating how far along this is truly coming.
Thermal management system?
their thermal management system is the best on the planet, and I think it's going to take at least another production line, so that would be at least 4 years ahead of everyone else.
4 years. Wiring? That you said that they could improve.
They're
right?
going to split that into two. As far as low voltage wiring, they're the same. There's no advantage. High voltage wiring and the system that they've used, that's probably another 4 years ahead of everybody else.
The underbody now with the rear mirror casting?
10 years. It'll take 10 years for, yeah, no one's going to be jumping into that.
And their operating system, like the regular operating system?
Well, it's hard to separate operating systems because Tesla does a lot of they bring several systems and put them into one. No one else has that at all. Zero people have that. So I guess I would say it's probably around 5 years. Yeah. 5 years.
Is there any part of the EVs, like the modern EVs, that Tesla is besides the competition, apart from the panel gaps that we already know that you've said it like several times? But
their panel gaps have caught up. If you're looking for things that Tesla has not done well or Tesla could improve on, there are some things that we would suggest. Like one would be when we tore the Ford apart. I just recently did a video on it. I like the idea of using planetary gears as opposed to spur gears. And if you use planetary gears, you get a quieter ride. You don't get that whine. So that would be one thing that I would suggest that Tesla might want to do. The other is on their electric motor. They use a wound motor, and I would recommend a hairpin style motor. So, and that's nothing to do with performance or anything. That has only to do with the fact that they can automate a hairpin motor as opposed to and these are permanent magnet motors. I did have a suggestion before. I suggested that they get rid of the copper in their induction motors, and they did. They went with aluminum. So those are the things that I would suggest are good. Oh, and then the last one, the one that I'm the most high on, and that's to go away from radar, LiDAR, or any other DAR for that matter, and move toward FLIR, forward-looking infrared. That's the best way, as far as I'm concerned, to identify people and objects in the rain or the snow or.
So look, for those of you that don't really know Sandy that well, this guy actually gets paid up to like 6 figures to break these car downs and offer insights to the major automakers. So everything he's saying here, I have not the slightest clue on what really matters about putting aluminum versus copper in the motors, but the fact that he's kind of inciting into self-driving, saying that, hey, infrared probably would be a better sensor reader, I would be really curious to say what the big tech leaders in Tesla or even Google would have to say about this, because this is like an indicator that no one's really using, and I'm curious to what the reason would be, because infrared, considering everything generates heat that would be on the road, it'd be real easy to see in winter. I'm surprised that it's never been mentioned before, but Tesla seems pretty adamant on just using the camera-based system, which, hey, that's all we're using to drive right now, and clearly it could be a little bit more efficient than me, because, when you're not paying attention and there's 10 cameras around the car, it just makes sense. But this was a really interesting insight to me.
Fog, whatever. FLIR works everywhere. We use that on the Department of Defense stuff that we work on. It works phenomenally well. So those are the things that I would recommend.
When I was investigating, because I follow you and I'm super pumped every time that you do a video, especially Tesla's video, I wanted to ask you one question that I thought nobody had asked you, but I saw like last year, Gali Russell from Hyperchange, hello Gali, he asked you about Tesla stock, and you said that you own some Tesla stock. Do you still own them?
No, actually, when I was talking to Gali, I did own stock, and I was buying and selling it, and I made a tremendous amount of money. I went from $20,000 to $170,000 in that buying and selling, because every time I saw the stock go up a lot, I knew that the short sellers would kind of try and drag it down. So I'd buy it. Then the short sellers would drag it down. I'd buy it back in. And then it just kept going up and down. I kept making a lot of money. Then I found out that if I give interviews, you're not allowed to own stock. So I wound up having to sell it. So I sold the stock that I had and called it a day. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, that's two or three cars that I'd normally buy, or a house. I mean, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of
I'm
money.
happy. But I don't own any stock. As a matter of fact, I own no stock in anything, because I've gone completely to cash, even in my retirement plan.
This is absolutely crazy, because I can relate to this. Every time I run sponsored videos or I work with people or companies that I have to talk about publicly, I do not own them, and you can own them. There are a lot of rules and regulations. It's just a matter when you become an influencer in the market, you become, a target to the SEC, because they don't want you to be in that kind of pump and dump rhetoric. There are a lot of big YouTubers like Financial Education that are going through lawsuits right now for, advising people on perhaps what companies to buy, why Tesla might be so great. But he's made so much money at this point. The thing that floored me the most here is the fact that he doesn't own any stock, because we're in a crazy market right now, and to not own anything, I wish he would ask why. That insight would have been absolutely incredible. But a lot of people always kind of redirect to the idea that, Sandy doesn't hold any Tesla stock, he must be bearish. Well, it's not that he's bearish, it's that he's already made a fortune, like many of us, anyone buying it post 2019 have. And on top of that, the guy doesn't need the SEC knocking on his door, because he's talking about the company literally almost bi-weekly on his channel. But let's see what else they have to finish up with.
You had never ever bought one company single stock, is it right?
That's correct. Yeah.
And why did you decide to do an exception in your financial and buy Tesla stock?
When we tore apart the Model 3, and we got past the ugly parts, like the doors didn't fit and the paint was terrible, on and on and on. Once I got past that and started looking at the technology, and we know where everyone is. I mean, you only see a small fraction of the cars that we actually tear apart, because people pay us quite a bit of money to tear a car apart, assess it, analyze it, cost it, and then come up with redesigns. So that basically allows us to know exactly what's inside of every vehicle that's in the marketplace if we want, or at least the most advanced vehicles. And looking at what Tesla had versus everyone else, to me, this was a no-brainer. I don't care. Anybody can fix a panel. Anybody can fix paint. Anybody can make gaps in a car better. Nobody can make circuit boards like what Tesla did. Nobody can produce electric motors like they do. I mean, they're light years ahead of everyone. Well, at least a dozen years ahead of everyone.
So there you go, folks. Let's just, kind of summarize a lot of this up. So basically, on the vast majority of the parts that matter in a Tesla, whether you're talking about chips, whether you're talking about motors, whether you're talking about batteries, they seem to be leading anywhere from 3, 5 to several years ahead. And the fact that he thinks that the iteration of self-driving will likely come in the next quarter, or maybe even, for me personally, I think it would be a bigger integration coming into maybe the middle to second half of next year. It's so hard to be bearish on the company, especially when you look at the numbers that they're already pulling, and considering most of the major US automakers aren't really going to be dropping any mass production at least until 2024 2025 timeframe, guys, and you look at how far Tesla is ahead already, it just keeps jumping them a little bit farther. And as many people have said, Tesla might not be the best buy today because it's got to kind of bake some of this value into the current stock price. But when you're looking out to 2030, it's like so apparent that the only competition Tesla has is China, in my humble opinion. And this is something that Sandy has reiterated many of times, and I just think it's going to lead to another example of why Tesla's probably going to become the #1 best-selling car in probably the next couple of years. But I want to pass the question off to you because clearly I'm bull. I own, I think I own 10 Tesla shares. I bought it back in 2019, made a fortune, sold out, bought back on the dip. Not nearly as gracefully as somebody like Sandy has done here, clearly, but still pretty happy overall. So let me know what you guys think in that comment section below. Stay cool, stay awesome, and as always, I look forward to catching you tomorrow.